All right, team. So this next session of QuickBooks will be about maintaining the chapter's accounts receivable. We'll go through creating our first member and editing information to an existing member to help maintain the chapter's accounts receivable. And we'll put to use some of those lists that we went over during our first session that include chart of accounts, product and services, and the use of class tracking once we dive into learning how to create an invoice and receiving payments and whatnot, okay? So to help get comfortable with this segment, I'm going to go ahead and open our sample company. And again, we're using a landscaping company. So this is going to look a little bit more different than our environment. And so just to dive into it, let's go ahead and scroll over to the left navigation panel and select invoicing, which in our environment should read as sales. And then there are these subsections here. One of them particularly is the customer's listing. So we're going to click on that. And again, in our environment, it should read as members. And just to get you comfortable with what you're going to see here and how you can, choose to get into reviewing your invoices or anything that is currently outstanding in your accounts receivable. This is definitely an easier way to get into that. So just to help you navigate through it, let's start with the buckets that are listed here. Here's where you can access anything that has been paid within the last 30 days. And then to the left is anything that is basically currently open. Depending on your terms of invoices, whether they're net 30, net 15, or et cetera, those will move over to this bucket here. And then you have this nice little bucket here that's kind of like a reminder that'll, show you anything that's currently unbilled. Sometimes you'll have these little special messages here, and you can simply close them if there's anything that that you don't need to take action on. All right, so let's look at the customer list, and you'll notice since we are using a landscaping company that they have included some companies and individuals, and then there's even like these sub customers here, which we'll learn a little bit more about as we learn to create our first member. You have the ability to click on this mini settings icon here depending on the type of information that you choose to view. So let's just say you wanted to view email addresses when you get in here. That's an option there as well for you. And then you have to the left, if you want to export your list to an Excel, in case maybe you're working on a special project or different platform, you can do that by clicking here in this option. And then there's this print icon as well, in case, that's a different way for you to just kind of review everything. All right, so again, so we have the customer list tab and then column, and then the phone number and email and any open balances. There's this action item, which I mentioned before. There's going to be different ways for you to, get into different things. And so this is one way to just, like a shortcut rather. So in case you wanted to receive a payment for a particular client or maybe create an invoice, there's also this drop down here, in case you wanted to possibly do any of the other actions listed here. There's this nice little field column, in case you wanted to search for someone and you knew who they were, instead of having to scroll through your list, you can just enter their name here and, just search for it. And then if we just click here to show you these batch action, just on our first company here, you'll see that you have the ability to create a statement or email them. Again, with certain things in QuickBooks, once we create and add them, we're not allowed to really delete them, but we can certainly deactivate them. And this is basically an option here for, anything that sits in our customers list. You also have the ability to click on this little icon that we see here. That's an envelope. In case you wanted to, just email a client or a member, depending on what type of email um, you know, module you're using, like Outlook or something, it'll certainly just take you right through there and link it. So you have that ability there. All right, so let me get you comfortable with just, creating your first member and like editing any information to an existing member. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and hover over here to the right and click on New Customer. And again, in our environment, it should read New Member. And I'm just going to create just, just a random name. Company, let's assume they're with HFMA. The display name as, that's basically the way that it's going to appear on your customer list. QuickBooks does recommend that you choose to go with last name, first name, just because it makes it easier for you when you have to research or search for anyone. And then for those of us that are using QuickBooks to print checks, this is the option that you would uncheck to change the way that their name will be displayed on the check. And so just to make it easier for the purpose of the training, I'm going to go ahead and change their name a bit. And I'm going to take you through these other fields. So you have email, and then just a phone number, website, let's assume hfma.org. And then there's this sub-customer option. So as I mentioned earlier, like let's say, in this case, let's say that you're building a profile for HFMA and then you want to build, individuals or entities under there. This is the option that you would click in order for it uh, to be filtered under that particular company. All right, and then there's these other tabs here, which we're not going to dive into all of them because we don't really use those in our environment, but just to get you comfortable with what I typically see chapters use for their own benefit, I'm going to go ahead and start with the address tab, of course. I'm just making something up. The shipping address, in case you're using this, you can, if it's different, you can just uncheck it and, update it. There's this like notes tab. This is just anything that you want to jot down that's going to help you identify with this particular individual. There's the attachments that I see a lot of individuals use. You can choose to, include a form of ID or certification, or, further down when we explore accounts payable and like build our vendors, I see a lot of individuals include like a W-9 in here, especially for like those contractors that we use for particular services. That's one of the options that you have to include any information. Okay, so let's go ahead and save, and that way we can just see how the information is populated. So here we go. This is our first member. Um, so I'm going to take you through a little bit of what you're going to see here. So you have the option again to edit any information by clicking on there. In case this individual updated their email address or phone number, or they're no longer working for a particular company, anything here that's changing, you can definitely choose to edit that information here and save it. You can also open the individual or company, and you can also choose to make them inactive if they're no longer an existing client. Okay. All right. So we're just going to say save. You have this option here, here to the right of the edit, in case you wanted to, work on invoicing or issuing a payment, anything like that that's related to any activity that you want to track for this particular individual. You also have these tabs here. We'll just go over, for example, the transaction list. So we just created this member. So of course, we're not going to have any transactions down below, but just to show you what those types of transactions can be, we're going to click on this filter option here, and you'll see all types of transactions. um, you'll see like anything like with regards to like money received or open invoices. Um, you can filter like that, or you can also filter by by the date. Um, then you have this also this like batch action. So let's just click on that. In case you wanted to print transactions or send transactions or a reminder, you have the option to do that under the transaction list tab here. And then you have this customer details where you can also view the information that, was entered for this particular individual. You can also choose to add the attachment here, make any notes, or even edit information as you wish. Okay, so let's go back to our customer list so you can see our customer that we created. All right, so now that we learned a little bit more about the makeup of our members list, let's learn the different approaches we can take to manage accounts receivable. So I like to show you two different approaches or steps to help track payments. All right. And so the first option is a one-step approach that is the easiest and most common amongst our chapters that I see. It is a shortcut method that will allow you to receive payments immediately by using deposits on the banking menu. The other option is a two-step approach that is also known as the accrual method. With this method in particular, we'll learn to create an invoice and then receive a payment. And so to get started, I'm going to go ahead and go back to our sample company, but I want to move on and actually get into, go back to our practice. As you know, you learned during the first session, we went through, chart of accounts and product and services and those classes to track. And so because I was able to import most of the common items that I see amongst our chapters, I'm going to go back to using my QuickBooks. Again, there isn't any information that's going to be confidential, that's going to be shared, even though you are going to see some of your chapter names here. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys and walk you through the first option, again, which is basically receiving a payment by depositing it on the banking menu. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and hover over here to the plus new, which is the create menu, and under the other listing tabs, choose bank deposit. All right, and so right away, I have selected the account checking, and then you can change the date depending on when you're, choosing to make the deposit. We're not going to really focus on tags because I don't really see that being used in our environment. But let's just say that we received this from our sample chapter, which I have created, and that this was with regards to, let's say, education income. And the description can be something, just, education income, um, payment method, possibly a check. We can choose to put something down, and then the amount, $250, let's just say. Now, for the purpose of this training, I'm going to go ahead and choose to use a class. And let's just say that we received this particular education income for the revenue cycle. Okay, so I'm going to do that. A memo, that's something that, if you choose to write something down just to kind of help you with this deposit, you can do so. There's also a field down here that you can attach anything with regards to this deposit as well. Maybe a copy of the check just for like future tracking, maybe, a receipt, something that's going to help you and that can help for future auditing purposes. Okay, so this is one way to automatically say you received the payment and you want to go ahead and deposit it and allow it to show on your bank register. So down here, we have the option to say, save and close or save and new if we wish to go ahead and make another deposit. So just for the purpose of this training, I'm going to go ahead and choose to save and close. And that's going to save my bank deposit, as you can see here. And then I want to go ahead and walk you through the two-step approach, which is again kind of like an accrual method because we are creating an invoice and then we're going to receive a payment. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and work with and hover over to the invoicing tab and click on customers. And I'm going to go ahead and use our sample chapter here. And I'm going to choose to hover over here to the action column and start off by creating an invoice. Okay. And right away, like if you are using someone from your customer list, all the information that you've entered is going to be pre-populated for you. So right here, I have the sample chapter and an email. And the billing address is pre-populated for me. The terms, if I choose to change it, I can do that here. I can choose to ask for due upon receipt or changes to net 15. So I'm going to go ahead and choose net 15. And depending on that, it's going to go ahead and change the date for you automatically. Again, I'm not going to focus on the tags because we don't really seem to use that in our environment. Now for the product and service, we're going to go ahead and choose one of the um, options that we have built within our platform. And I'm going to say that this is an invoice for gold sponsorship, okay? And I'm going to say that it is, you know, maybe sample chapter gold sponsor, something like that. Um, This isn't a product, and so the rate isn't pre-populated for you. And then so the amount, I'm going to say that it's going to be $500. And I'm going to say that this is gold sponsorship for like annual conference. Um, all right. You have the option to continue adding more lines if you choose to. Again, this is an invoice, and then the message. So most of our chapters already have templates built in within their environment. And so because I am using a sample company, I don't have a special message, but that is an option here. You can say, something like, thank you for um, becoming a gold sponsor for our annual conference, you know, just something like that. You can put a message if you're sending a statement, and then you can also choose to add something with regards to an attachment here. Um, and then down below, uh, we have the option to send it to the email address. Again, you can change any information here before you do that. But I'm going to go ahead and actually click off of that and choose to just save and close so we can move on to the next step. All right, guys. So we're still working under our customers list under sales. And as you can see here, um, we have an open balance for the sample chapter. This is the invoice that we created. And so now we're going to learn how to actually receive a payment on the invoice that we created. And we can click on this receive payment here. And so right away, you'll see again that the information is pre-populated for you. Um, the payment method, again, if you received it in cash, check, or a credit card, we're going to assume that we received a check and that we was, number 124, and that it is going to be deposited to our checking account. You have the option here to change it. depending if you are going to put it in towards savings, or maybe it's, undeposited funds, which is, let's say that you received a check, but you haven't made it to the bank. And so this is where it would temporarily sit until you can actually deposit it to the chapter's bank. Um, and then right away, you'll see that any invoices that fall for this particular individual are going to be listed here. So right away, because again, this is like the only invoice that we have created, it automatically pre-populated it for us. So you have the ability to uncheck that or check it if if it's not with regards to this. You have the ability to make a note here as well, or attach anything. And so now we're just going to go ahead and click on Save and Close. And so now you see that we have a zero open balance for our sample company. Okay, so we've made it through pretty much learning how to navigate through our accounts receivable environment. I want to go ahead and just do a quick recap. We learned to add a new member to the existing chapters list and added existing information. We explored approaches we can take when managing and tracking our accounts receivable. And we learned to incorporate the different lists that included the chart of accounts, product and services, and classes. And so my goal was to really get you comfortable with your accounts receivable environment, and to show you some easy approaches you can take to manage invoicing and receiving payments. Nothing too complicated, but enough to help you review your list of clients and work through what may be outstanding. Okay, so stay tuned for our next session. Thank you.